Hi there Titans, and welcome back to another Titan Academy video. Today we'll be talking about bulk pushing data to Salesforce from Titan Web. First, I'll show you what it's like to push multiple records to Salesforce without using bulk. Then we will push records using bulk, and we will show you how to use bulk batches. And finally, I'll show you how you can update records in Salesforce using bulk as well. Let's get started. I've already set up a repeat strip here, and I have a last name field here, which I will use to push last names of contacts to Salesforce. And I also have a button that will add multiple indexes to my strip so that I can push multiple contacts, as well as a push set up to push contacts. Now let's take a look at this push in particular. And this is just a simple contact create, no bulk mode on, and I'm simply mapping the last name from my repeat strip to the last name in Salesforce. So let's start by seeing what happens when I push multiple records to Salesforce. So I'll add a couple of indexes and we'll say contact 1, contact 2, and contact 3 here, and I'll go ahead and push these. And if we take a look at our integration logs, we can see that we have 3 separate pushes, and each push is creating a contact in Salesforce. All right. Now, let's say I wanted to push these all, instead of as 3 separate API calls or 3 calls to Salesforce, I want to push them all as one bulk push all together. Now, I can do that by heading over to push and clicking on bulk mode. And once I do this, my records will be pushed together. Now, a small disclaimer is that once you push in bulk, there are a couple of differences. So the first one I'll demonstrate by, let's remove this field, for example, and we'll name this new contact 1 and this new contact 2. So I'm going to be creating 2 contacts here, and this should fail a validation on the Salesforce side because it'll be creating a contact without a required field, which would be the last name. And let's see what happens when I run it like this without setting it up as bulk. So I'll push this contact, and this particular contact should fail. And if I take a look at my integration logs, I can see that I've created 1 contact, 2 contacts, but my 3rd contact failed, and I get an error saying that it failed. Now I'm going to run this in bulk. I'm also going to decide how many records per batch I'm pushing. So in my bulk push, how many records do I want to push in each batch that I'm running? So for example, if I push 10 contacts, perhaps I want to push 5 at a time as separate batches. We recommend using smaller batches in general. It's safer to do it this way. Let's say I run a batch of 5, and if I were to push 10 contacts, that would be 2 separate pushes to Salesforce. All right, so let's run a batch of 5 in this case, and I'm going to save, and let's refresh over here. And I'm going to do the same exercise here, but this time I'm going to, we're doing it as bulk, so let's push 3 contacts. We'll say Mr. G and Mr. B. And again here, I'm not going to push anything in one of my contacts here. Now let's add one more. Okay, so one of them should fail, and let's see what happens when I run it like this. So now that I'm running it as bulk, I can see here that this is all being pushed as 1, and that's because it's within a batch of 5, and I've only pushed 3 records, so that constitutes 1 push to Salesforce. But you'll notice that I don't have an error. This is from previously. I don't have a new error showing me that one of my contacts failed. And that's because I'm pushing this in bulk. I'm not going to get this error back. And so for debugging reasons, this might be a little bit worse. Might be a little bit harder to understand why one of these contacts or one of these records was not created in Salesforce. And as a result, that's one reason why you might not want to do it as a bulk push. The other main reason you might not want to run a bulk push would be that a bulk push is asynchronous, and so we don't know exactly how long it will take, when exactly it will be pushed to Salesforce. Generally it'd be quite fast, but it could be slower than pushing each record individually like this. All right, so we've talked about the idea of running bulk, and we've talked about what batches are and how to do different batches. Let's quickly demonstrate an example of pushing 2 separate batches. So let's say we have batches of 3. I'll save, let's refresh. So we'll do 6 contacts. All right, let's do 3, 4, 5, and 6. So now we've got 6 different contacts, and we're pushing them in batches of 3. So we should see 2 separate pushes to Salesforce for these 6 records. All right, so if we check out our logs, we can see that at 11:29, we have these 3 records and these 3 records being pushed as 2 separate batches. All right, the final thing that we're going to take a look at here is running updates from bulk. Now, typically, if I go to update, you'll see that I do not see any option for bulk mode here. So if I'm trying to update contacts or update any record for that matter in Salesforce, I don't see an option to do bulk. The only way that I can do bulk is if I use record ID mode. And once I do record ID mode, now I have the options to do bulk. Now, what is record ID mode? Record ID mode allows me to update a record, but only if my condition is based on the record's record ID. Okay, so we'll do this, a small example very quickly. I'll show you, I've already set it up, but I'll show you how I set it up. Basically, I'm going to update these contacts based on the contact ID that is sitting in my repeat strip variable called contact ID. I'll show you this variable in a moment. And this is really the only way that this update will work. Otherwise, if I had a more complex condition, this wouldn't work. It needs to be exactly just matching a record ID. Otherwise, bulk mode will not work. So if you want to do bulk for update, remember, you need to have a condition that is simply record ID equals the ID in Salesforce. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and show you here that I have a custom variable, which is that contact ID. I'm populating this contact ID as well as populating this last name in a get that I'm running right over here. Okay, I'm not going to show you the get right now, but we'll see it in action in just a moment. So if I refresh one more time and I run my get, now I'm getting all of my contacts back. Let's just update a couple of these. And okay, so we'll just update a few of them. Okay, and now let's go ahead and run our push. And this will update these contacts in bulk. And that's, again, only working because we have a record ID behind the scenes for each of these rows that I'm updating. There's a variable, and you can learn more about using these variables in separate videos about pushes. But here we can see that we've updated these as bulk pushes in batches of 3. And again, that update will only work if you're using record ID mode and if your condition is simply that the record ID equals some ID on your project. And that's how it's done.